If you're looking for the best noise cancelling headphones for the music, well, you're going to get a lot of recommendations, one of which will likely be the Sony WH-1000XM5s. And these, by today's standards, are still a very, very good pair of headphones. However, Sony has a new champion in 2025, the WH-1000XM6. There are 3 color options, black, silver, and midnight blue. So some of the questions you might have about the XM6 are, what's new? What can these do that the XM5s can't? Do they sound better? Are they better at noise cancelling? And ultimately, are they worth spending the extra money on? Or are the XM5s the better deal now? So I'm going to do my best to answer all of those questions for you guys in this video so that you can make a more well-informed decision when it comes to choosing between these two. And I'll even do an ANC side-by-side test so you can hear for yourself how good the noise cancelling is on the XM6. And for those of you who are bass heads out there, I'll even do a little bass test side-by-side between these two to see if there are any improvements there. And definitely keep in mind, whenever you see the midnight blue color, that is the XM5s. And whenever you see the black, it is the XM6. And before we get into the design upgrades on the XM6, there is something really important that you need to know about the EQs on these headphones. And I only learned about this recently when I was at Sony's own studio 5020 in Madrid, and I learned this directly from the sound engineers who tuned these headphones. I think you're going to want to hear about that. Anyway, let's get a look at the design. Here's what's new. The hinges have been redesigned with an all new stainless steel folding mechanism. This allows the headphones to fold right down, which is an instant win for the XM6, as the XM5s could not do this at all. And another big advantage to this hinge redesign is when you put them on, there's a lot more movement like this. So if you have one ear further back or further forward, these should fit your ears regardless, because they can be set up asymmetrically so they don't have to be the same on both sides. Also, the way in which they twist now allows them to sit flat against your chest if you want to wear them like this. The headband shape, as you can see, has been widened, and also the headband padding is now wider. This improves the weight distribution across the top of your head, and I instantly noticed a big improvement in the comfort due to this change. The power button is now circular and kind of dips slightly inwards, making it easier to find with your finger and less likely to mistake for the noise cancelling button. And that definitely is something I did quite a lot with the XM5s. The analog headphone jack, the ANC and ambient aware button, and the smooth slide are exactly the same as the XM5s. The capacitive touch controls have not changed, although the surface is more circular now, and it still has that quick attention mode where you place your hand over the right ear cup. That activates the ambient pass-through so you can have a conversation. I found this to be an invaluable feature when you've got noise cancelling on and someone's trying to talk to you. The padding on the ear cups and the headband appear to be the same soft fit leather. Now here's another design upgrade. The ear cups are now one seamless piece. If you look closely at the XM5s, you'll notice there's a little seam that runs down the side. And I do believe that having less interconnecting parts on the ear cups themselves will actually reduce any unwanted vibrations at those joints. Another upgrade that Sony have said they've made to the XM6 ear cups is that now they have an anti-fingerprint finish. And here's my thoughts on that. Yes, they show less fingerprints, but they still show fingerprints. So if that's something that bothers you, I would recommend you either go for the silver or the midnight blue, because I got a feeling this black pair shows way more fingerprints than the other two. The XM5 grills sat just below the surface and they had this kind of gold accent. The XM6 grills are now in line with the top of the ear cup, and the color of the grill matches the rest of the headphone. And another advantage of this design change is that this is much less likely to collect dust now, and there are more mics than before. The XM5s had a total of 8 mics on board, and the XM6 have 12. There were 4 outside and 2 inside each ear cup, which is a significant upgrade, and this should improve the noise cancelling and the ambient pass-through and the voice call quality. This is a huge upgrade. The XM6 uses a brand new noise cancelling QN3 chip, which is said to be 7 times faster than the QN1 chip used in the XM5s, whilst being just as power efficient. And I was told by Sony that the XM6 uses an all new algorithm that's been redesigned from the ground up for noise cancelling, and sound suppression in the mid to high frequencies have been significantly improved. Well, that's what they told me, but I think you should be the judge. So let's do a noise cancelling test, XM6 versus XM5. Okay, this is the ambient pass-through mode on the XM5s. So this is where it allows the sound to pass through so you can have a conversation. This is the ambient pass-through mode on the XM6. Is it better than the XM5s? Let me know. This is the passive noise cancelling. Testing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So this is what you can expect with ANC switched off. I'm going to introduce some noise now. And now I'm going to activate the noise cancelling. Now let's activate noise cancelling. So this is the level of noise cancelling that you get from the XM6. Let me know if it's as good as the XM5s or better in the comments below. Okay, this is how the mics sound on the XM5s, and there are 4 on each ear cup. Now let's test this versus the XM6. Okay, this is the XM6 in a quiet environment. There are 12 total mics and 6 of them are AI-driven microphones for voice pickup. Does it sound better than the XM5s? Let me know. And something else you should know about these headphones, which is different from the XM5s, is you can use the noise cancelling button to mute the mic when on a phone call or on a conference call and things like that. So that's a really handy upgrade. Okay, this is how the XM5 mics sound when there's loud road noise. Okay, this is the XM6 mics with road noise in the background. How does it handle? How does it compare versus the XM5s when it comes to cancelling out that noise? This is how the XM5 mics sound when there is wind and road noise. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. This is the XM6 with road noise and wind. Let me know if it's noticeably better than the XM5s or the same. Now, before we move on to the app upgrades and my opinions on the sound quality versus the XM5s, there is one more design difference which I need to show you, and I think a lot of XM5 owners will appreciate this one. The carry case has been completely redesigned. Instead of the XM5's origami zip case, the XM6 now has a magnetic buckle to open it, and the entire thing is a kind of rigid hard shell, but with a smaller footprint. However, I have noticed the XM5 case does squash down quite a bit thinner than the XM6 case, which was very handy for slotting into the back of airplane seats. But apart from that, I do believe this is an upgrade. Inside this new case, you do have a little pouch here that holds the USB-C cable and the 3.5mm headphone cable. And the difference here is that the XM5 actually had a magnetic door inside, which I actually quite liked. Anyway, now let's talk quickly about the battery life. So the battery life on the XM6 remains the same as the XM5's at 30 hours with ANC on. The quick charge functionality is incredible with just 3 minutes charge, giving it 3 hours of playback with ANC on. Now, I did put the XM6 through a 24-hour burn-in process to loosen up the drivers, and I managed to drain the power completely down to 0 from 75%, which was the battery level that they were on when I first got them out of the box. And then of course, because I ran them down, that gave me the opportunity to test the recharge time. So in just 10 minutes, the XM6 went from 0 to 23% at a 15-watt charging speed. And it was then that I discovered another upgrade. And some people might overlook the importance of this, but the XM6 can be charged whilst listening to them, whereas the XM5s couldn't. So if these ran out on a plane, which these have done on me in the past, you would have to not use them for a while to let them recharge, so then you could use them again. Whereas these, you could carry on using them as long as you want, as long as you've got a power supply. But the downside to charging this way is that if you do charge these headphones whilst they are powered on, the charging speed drops down dramatically to just 2 watts. And because of that, that completely ruined my recharge timing test. But I can tell you it took me just over an hour to fully charge these, but of course it can be done faster if you leave them powered down. All right, now let's talk about the upgrades that Sony have made on the software side of things via their Sound Connect app. Now, a couple of things that have been improved that you won't be able to see here within the app is that Sony have improved their adaptive noise cancelling optimizer. So this is the software that adjusts the noise cancelling levels based on the sound around you. And of course, the added mics here will definitely help with that. And there's a brand new adaptive ambient sound algorithm that actually adjusts the audio according to the surrounding sounds as well. So that's something we didn't have on the XM5s. And there is something here that has really impressed me, and it is within the listening modes. You have the standard, which is for music and just general listening. But if you're watching a movie on a plane or when you're traveling, This new cinema mode is absolutely fantastic. It can take your typical stereo audio signal and transform it and upscale it into 360 audio. And you can see there, Bravia 3D surround, and it really does work well. It's like you're sitting inside a movie theater when you switch this mode on. And then there's also the background music mode. So this changes the EQ to make your audio sound like it's coming from somewhere in the distance. And there are 3 different scenarios here that you can choose from. And this next improvement is a big deal. So if you jump into the equalizer, you actually now have, if you go to custom, a 10-band equalizer. Previously on the XM5s, you only had a 5-band equalizer. And you still have the Find My Equalizer feature. So this goes through a sort of trial and error process where you pick your favorite sound, and at the end it creates a unique EQ based on which sounds you like the most. Spatial sound and head tracking is available here also. And this is brand new. There is a dedicated game EQ. I'm told that this has actually been worked on by the Sony InZone team. Of course, these are Sony headphones, and of course you do get LDAC, as well as Sony's DSEE Extreme Upscaler, the Speak to Chat feature as well, which has been improved, multi-point pairing, and Sony's own voice controls that allow you to switch tracks and change volume and perform basic functions using just voice commands. So that could be very handy for the gym. And now they also support Bluetooth LE, ultra wideband, and Auracast. Now, if you're not familiar with Auracast, put very simply, what you can do is create an Auracast broadcast from one device, and then multiple, in fact, almost infinite amount of headphones that support Auracast can connect to that one broadcast. So this does mean if you're on a plane and you're watching something on your phone, you could share the audio to the person next to you if you wanted to via Auracast, but their headphones have to support it, and these headphones do. All right, now let's talk about some of the physical audio upgrades. So the XM6 uses a brand new 30mm carbon fiber composite driver with a new soft edge. So it's more flexible, and in theory, this should allow the driver to push more air and generally be more powerful. There's also a newly designed noise shaper to better disperse the sound waves. The circuitry has been optimized, and Sony has thrown in some Walkman tech in the form of a low phase crystal oscillator and gold solder. Now this all sounds good, right? But do they sound better than the XM5s? That is the question. So I tested the XM5 versus the XM6 side by side using the LDAC codec, which is the best codec you can use with these headphones. And when testing the XM6 with more classic styles, you can definitely feel that there's more power in the vocal range and more power just overall. The vocals sound cleaner due to audibly clearer separation in the mids and the high frequencies. And this adds to that sense of spaciousness within the headphones. And you do get this really nice wide soundstage. Not to say that the XM5s don't have that, but the XM6 in this area are just better. Now, when I listen to bass heavy tracks, like this one from Post Malone, I'll be honest, the bass on the XM5s still blows my mind, but side by side using the default EQ, the bass levels are really quite similar on the two headphones. But there is one noticeable difference. The bass seems to be more controlled on the XM6 and doesn't bleed into the mid-range quite as much. So you get this really nice deep bass, but all those details in the mid-frequencies still stay crystal clear. And then I did test them with some Rage Against the Machine. And yes, the XM5s sound good. They sound very good, in fact, but the XM6 just sound better. And I think it's their ability to deliver those higher pitched details on the drums and things like that, and the nuances in the music, whilst at the same time being able to hit those power levels that you will appreciate the most if you're into bass. So in my opinion, if like me, you do own the XM5s, I would say that these, based off the sound quality and the improvements with the comfort and even the software, these are definitely worth the upgrade. And if you've never tried a pair of Sony headphones and you're not upgrading, you're looking for your first pair, well then you could go for the XM5s. And if these come down to around the £200 price point, that would be an absolute bargain. But if you do have the budget for the XM6, then I would definitely say go for these. They're more future-proof, they sound better, they're more comfortable. They look pretty much the same, but ultimately I do believe the XM6 is the better sound investment. Oh, and I almost forgot to tell you about that really important bit of information that I learned whilst in Madrid, sitting next to one of the sound engineers that actually dialed in the EQ for these very headphones. A lot of people don't realize this about Sony's signature sound. You know, the one that the Sony sound engineers purpose-built this driver for, the sound signature that they work tirelessly on to perfect. It is actually only active when you leave the EQ mode switched off. So with that in mind, that's how I did my comparison between the sound quality on these two headphones. Anyway, I hope you got some value out of this video and it helped you make a decision between the XM5 and the XM6.